My name is Amanda Sheridan, and I'm going to be talking about the nervous system. The nervous system is a complex network of nerves and cells that carry messages to and from the brain and spinal cord to various parts of the body. The nervous system includes both the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is made up of the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system is made up of the somatic and the autonomic nervous system. So first major part of the central nervous system is the brain. Brain weighs approximately 2.5 to 3 pounds. It also has cells called neurons and the supporting cells, which are called the glia. There are also two types of matter in the brain. There's white matter and gray matter. The gray matter receives and stores impulses, and the white matter carries the impulse to and from the gray matter. And there are 4 key parts to the brain, which are the brainstem, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the diencephalon. Breaking down those 4 key parts, first we have the brainstem, which can also be known as the medulla oblongata. It is located between the pons and the spinal cord and is only about 1 inch long. The next part is the cerebrum. The cerebrum forms the bulk of the brain and is supported by the brainstem. The cerebrum is divided into 2 hemispheres, the right and the left, and each hemisphere controls the activities for the opposite sides of your body. For example, your left hemisphere controls your right side, your right hemisphere controls your left side. The hemispheres are further broken down into 4 lobes: the frontal lobe, which assists in motor control and cognitive activities; the occipital lobe, which contributes to our vision; the parietal lobe, which assists in our sensory process; and lastly, the temporal lobe, which assists in hearing, talking, vision, things like that. Moving on to the third key part of the brain is the cerebellum, which is located behind and below the cerebrum. Its main purpose is to coordinate and regulate muscular activity. The fourth and final key part of the brain is the diencephalon, or the forebrainstem. It includes the thalamus and hypothalamus. The thalamus is where sensory and other impulses go and coalesce. The hypothalamus is a smaller part of the diencephalon. Other parts of the brain include the midbrain and the pons. The midbrain provides conduction pathways to and from higher and lower centers. Pons acts as a pathway to higher structures and has conduction pathways between the medulla and higher brain centers. All right, the second major part of the central nervous system is the spinal cord. The spinal cord is a long tube-like structure which extends from the brain. The spinal cord is composed of a series of 31 segments. A pair of spinal nerves comes out of each segment. It's about 43 centimeters long in adult women, 45 centimeters long in adult men, weighs between 35 and 40 grams, which I'm not sure exactly, but I know about a little less than a pound. It lies within the vertebral column, the collection of bones, or the backbone, also known as. A few other parts to the central nervous system as well. The meninges, which are 3 layers of membranes that cover the brain and spinal cord. The outer layer is called the dura mater, the middle layer is the arachnoid, and the inner layer is the pia mater. Ultimately, the meninges acts as a barrier against bacteria and other microorganisms. There's also cerebrospinal fluid, also known as CSF. The CSF circulates around the brain and spinal cord while protecting and nourishing it as well. Moving on to the peripheral nervous system, made up of 2 parts: the somatic and the autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system consists of the peripheral nerve fibers that pick up sensory information or sensations from the peripheral or distant organs, like your limbs, and carry them to the central nervous system. They also consist of motor nerve fibers that come out of the brain and take the messages for movement and necessary action to the skeletal muscles. For example, if you were to touch something hot, the sensory nerves carry information about the heat to the brain, which then tells the muscles of the hand to withdraw immediately. The whole process takes less than a second to happen. The cell body of the neuron that carries the information often lies within the brain or spinal cord and projects directly to a skeletal muscle. The second part of the peripheral nervous system is the autonomic nervous system. That has 3 parts: the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and the enteric nervous system. This system controls the nerves of the inner organs on which us as humans have no conscious control, for example, digestion or your heart beating. The nerves of the autonomic nervous system innervate the smooth and voluntary muscles of the organs and cause them to function. The enteric nervous system is a complex network of nerve fibers that innervate the organs within the abdomen. Then just a quick bit about neurons. They are considered the smallest worker in the nervous system. For each chain of impulses, there is one preganglionic neuron that is like a central controlling body for numerous neurons going out. And then just a couple general fun facts about the nervous system. And actually forget what I wrote. Oops. So there are more nerve cells in the human brain than there are in the Milky Way. So that's a ton. If we were to line up all the neurons in our body, it would be around 600 miles long. There are 100 billion neurons in your brain alone. Mind-blowing. There are around 13.5 million nerves in the spinal cord, and the right side of your brain controls the left, vice versa, like I mentioned earlier. I just thought that was really cool. The disease that I chose to talk about, let me make sure this is on the right page, is multiple sclerosis. And multiple sclerosis is described as an unpredictable, often disabling disease of the central nervous system that disrupts the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. All right, so who gets MS and how? Generally, between the ages of 20 and 50 is when you would be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, although there are cases of younger children and significantly older adults being diagnosed with it. The cause is currently unknown, but basically what they do is focus on relief and recovery from the attacks on your muscles and managing the symptoms, so it's a little easier, I guess, for you in general. There are some cases, though, where people don't have symptoms major enough to be treated, and they just kind of live with that. They could give them medications. Make sure I'm on the right page here. No, okay. They could give you medications for small symptoms, like fatigue, muscle relaxers. If you have trouble urinating or things like that, they can give you stuff to pinpoint those specific symptoms. But otherwise, there is no cure currently. So that is pretty much it. We're excited, and I hope I did good.